All right, welcome everyone to today's live stream event. This is the Realtors Commercial Alliance. I am Chris Vogt, Commercial Realtor, and today we are going to be talking about how to list and sell triple net real estate with our special guest, Joel Carlson. Call him Dr. Carlson. He's an amazing guy. I've known him now for, I think, about 6 years, and he always surprises me with new and cool and interesting information that just surprises me. It's always great. Let's get this party started. There he
You got
is.
it, Dr. Vogt. We're rocking and rolling now.
Joel is you've been in real estate since the forms were on papyrus, I think, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Yeah. So you used to have to take that stuff and make your own paper.
Make our own paper. We had to squeeze the things to get the ink. We had to dip the feathers into there and make
And
sure
you
it
had
was
to
covered.
go find a goose so that you had a quill.
Yep, yep. And then
Yeah.
Gutenberg messed everything up. He brought out the printing press and everybody could do it now.
Yeah. And then David Packard and his friend Hewlett making HP and
Mm.
those laser printers. I remember those guys well, long time ago. But anyhow, today is an excellent day. I'm really excited that we're talking about triple net real estate with our friend Joel. And Joel, all kidding aside, how long ago was it that you actually got started as a realtor?
I had one of those epiphanies where I said, I got my real estate license January 26th, 1976. And I went, holy crud, it's been 50 years. People always say, well, why don't you retire? You retire from something you don't like. I love this business and I love all the aspects of it and all the things that I can do to help people. So I will do what's called, I'll retire when they pry my dead cold fingers from my mouse.
From your mouse.
Yeah.
Well, the way I look at it, as long as I can speak competently and I'm
Mhm.
enjoying myself, why not have fun doing commercial real estate, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
there's very few things in life I think that are more interesting than solving challenges and working with people. And that's what commercial real estate's all about.
That's excellent. Yep. You get
So,
started in the residential. And then you have your first deal where somebody says, well, can you sell this? You say, I don't know anything about it, but I guess I can. You do it and you don't get sued. So you say, okay, I'm going to continue. And then you get some education and you just kind of fade into that.
all right. Well, speaking of this, when you first got started in 1976, 76, so the 200th birthday of our country. So you said June something, right?
June, it was January 26th.
Oh,
I remember
January.
the date
So
because I was so excited. I had my license. I could go out and sell real estate.
yeah, so almost 6 months before our nation's birthday.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think that it was 1976 that I went to Miles Square Park down there in the OC, and
Yes.
I saw Ronald Reagan, and there were thousands of people in the park to see Ronnie Babe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That was great. I was in college. No, hold it. Nope, I didn't graduate from high school until 79. So it would have been in the 80s that I went and saw Ronald Reagan at Miles Square Park.
Mhm.
See, that's what happens 50 years ago. It's
Yeah.
tough to
Time
remember.
flies when you're having fun.
Time flies when you're having fun. Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
All right. So you started in residential.
Yes. Yeah. I started with Walker and Lee Real Estate in the Orangeville Park office of Orange County. Was salesman of the month the first month I was in the business. That was just one of those lucky things. And I thought, oh, this is easy.
Yeah.
So I just kept on doing it. And then one of my clients, I sold a piece of property, said, hey, my accountant says I need to buy a duplex. Can you sell me a duplex? Sure. It didn't occur to me that was different than selling a single family home.
Right.
So I sold that and learned what that was, and then sold a few more and all of a sudden I said, ooh, wait a minute. Nobody that I've sold a building to says, oh, I don't like the carpet. I'm not going to buy it. They'll go, well, I make money. Yeah. I'm in. So I kind of like that a little bit better.
Yeah. So of course, you know, residential real estate is 1 to 4 units. When did you actually get into your first commercial deal?
I did an exchange out of a 4 unit building into a 10 unit building in Riverside. And when somebody came to me and they said, "Yeah, you can buy real estate, you can depreciate it, so you don't pay taxes. You can use the income for whatever you want, pay your mortgages or live on, and if you need money, you can borrow against the property, and you don't have to pay it back. The tenants pay it back." I said, "That's impossible." And so I took a few classes, and all of a sudden I was like, well, why doesn't everybody do 1031 tax deferred exchanges? Now, there's other things out there that will defer taxation, but I've been very successful in that aspect of it with my
Mhm.
clients and myself. So it's a situation where if the federal government gives this to you and the state is compliant, I'm in.
That's
Because
good.
I figured out real quick. I buy it at exchange. I buy it at exchange. If I need money, I can borrow the money out. I can do that. I can buy more real estate. I can go around the world with a younger friend. I can do anything with that money. And it's paid back by the tenants.
Hmm.
And I get that depreciation, protect my income, and then exchange, pull out money, exchange, pull out money. And then I pull the ultimate tax coup and I die. I paid no taxes on any of the money I've used. The tenants have paid all my mortgage payments and everything else, and I've had the write-off against my ordinary income with other transactions I do.
And
So
thanks to the big, beautiful bill, you now have $15 million you can leave to your heirs tax free
yep,
with no estate tax.
that's something that it's a long time coming. And I was in a seminar and a guy was talking about taxing the rich, and he said, "Okay, here's how many rich we have in California. Here's the structure of income. Nobody makes any money, this amount of money, that amount of money. The top 3% pay 38% of the tax, 34% of the taxes."
Well, that was before the billionaire tax sent a bunch of them off to Texas and
Yeah,
Florida.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
the state of California is going to learn. They're going to lose. It's I'm reminded of Atlas Shrugged. Have you ever read the book by Ayn Rand and how
exactly.
the government started doing all this stuff, and the richest people in the business who were employing millions of people said, "Oh, okay, you got it figured out. We're leaving," and they disappeared. And the government went, "Oh, now what do we do? We don't have any income. We don't have any structure. We don't have anybody employed." So
I
I'm
was
going to go to
actually
California.
reading Atlas Shrugged when I know, General Motors, the government pressured General Motors into firing their CEO. Do you remember that?
Mm,
And I was reading the book Atlas Shrugged, and I just read that chapter where the exact same thing had happened in the book, and I'm like, that'll never happen in America. And like a week later, the government pressured General Motors to change their CEO.
yeah. It's getting
So
interesting out there.
yeah, fact stranger than fiction, right?
Yeah, truth on
Yeah.
that.
So you started doing multifam. When did you move out
Right.
of multifam into, what a lot of people like to call real commercial instead of residential commercial?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I got a 128 unit building in San Bernardino, and I got it from the RTC, Resolution Trust Company, when they had all that restructuring, all the different, um, I guess they were savings and loans.
So
And
back
I
in the
decided
80s.
I was there at the property on Mount Vernon. I was collecting rents. And I walked out to my car, and this truck came sliding to a stop across the street. This guy jumped out and chased this other guy down the street, shooting at him. And I went, "I'm out of here." So I exchanged it into my first commercial building in the city of Orange.
Oh,
And
wow.
it wasn't a big building, but it was I wanted to get away from that kind of situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was what, an office building or industrial or what?
It was an office building on what was it on? But I'm going to say Batavia.
Batavia?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is where I have an office now on Batavia, but I don't own this particular building. It just
Okay.
happens to be a great area for my studio.
Cool. Now, triple net. How did you discover triple net?
Oh, that's a great one. I was representing this client and he said, I told him, and I went, our audience, our people who are listening to us, there are two things in the real estate business commercially you must do. When you're dealing with a client, you first question you want to ask him is, who's your real estate attorney? Not who's
Mhm.
your divorce attorney. You want to know your real estate attorney because they're the ones going to be looking over the forms. Now in
Not
residential,
only that,
I don't
but
care who
who's
the
your
attorney is.
commercial real estate attorney?
Yeah, your real
Yeah.
estate attorney. The second question I always want to know is who's your tax person? Who's your CPA?
Hmm.
Because I'm going to push everything off onto them. Is this a good deal for me? I don't have a clue. Talk to your tax person. Is this contract good? I don't know. Talk to your attorney. So that's the first two things I did. So I talked to this client. He said, my tax person is up in Beverly Hills. I said, I want to meet him. I like to meet people. I'm more of a, get in front of people, nose, toes, toes. So I drive
Yep.
up there and we're talking about the deal and the tax guy saying, yeah, everything's fine. It looks good. And so just, make conversation. I said, what kind of properties do you invest in? He said, net lease properties. And I said, what are those? And it was
Hmm.
one of those things where he kind of looked at me like, you're selling commercial, you don't know what a net lease property is? Well, I sold. So he explained it to me and told me, so, you buy this building, you then lease it to a tenant, and the tenant pays the property taxes, the insurance, and the maintenance.
Hmm.
Now, when you're young, I was under 30 at that time, and the guy
Right.
said to me that, I said, bullshit. Nobody gonna do that. Because it's just that's impossible. A tenant would not do that. And
Hmm.
so he took me and showed me some different things, and I went, I need to get into this. Because what I was having trouble with, and somebody who's on this, we used to do seminars on this, going from apartments where you had the three T's, tenants, toilets, and trash,
Right.
and go into commercial where you don't have any of that. That's all the tenants situation. But you got to make sure you vetted the tenant. So that's how I got into the net lease situation. I was talking to the CPA, and then I said, "Well, I'm gonna 1031 everything into the net lease properties."
Yeah. So
Bad
let's talk
with them.
about what net lease is. So
Yes,
typically it's called triple net. There's three ends. And a
right.
lot of people listening to us may not know what the three ends are. So why don't you just go through that for them?
Well, the three ends are, and this is one of the misnomers. If you look at the definition of a net lease property, it is the tenant. This is a net lease. The tenant
Hmm.
pays the property taxes, the insurance, and the maintenance on the property.
Hmm.
Those are the three. So I, the owner, receive a net check. And I can pay the mortgage with that, or I can put it in my bank account, whatever I want to do. So that's the net lease. When you say triple net, that's a misnomer. Because if you say, well, what's a double net? Which of the three are you paying or whatever? So it becomes what we refer to as a modified gross. It's a gross lease because you're going to pay me. I have one of those in Vancouver, Washington. It's a 2 unit and it's a modified gross just based on the fact that I learned, in Southern California, we don't have a big problem with rain. In the Pacific Northwest, it rains all the time.
Yeah.
So the guy said, the roof is leaking. I said, well, fix it. He said, okay. The roof next month, the roof is leaking. I said, didn't you fix it? He said, well, we just don't have enough money. So I changed it from a net lease where he was taking care of the roof and the exterior to me. So he takes care of the taxes and the insurance, and I take care of the external part of the business called a modified gross.
Hmm.
So a net lease, you'll hear people say a triple net. Okay, fine. It's just tomatoes, but there is no such thing as a double net or a single net. It's just a net leased or modified gross. So, and
Yeah.
you get to pick, and as the owner, if you and I didn't know that again when I was tired of these guys calling me up every 15 minutes because these things were happening. I said, that's your problem, Ace Hardware, not my problem. They I decided to make some changes there.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I love about commercial real estate is there's so many variations
Mm-hmm.
that it's customizable. And there's two types of triple net in my estimation. One is where the tenant actually goes and does all the repairs and stuff, and they pay for it out of pocket, and you never even know about it. And the other is you as the landlord, when the roof leaks, you go hire the contractor, fix it, and then you bill it back to the tenant. So there's
Right.
two different ways of approaching it. One is where the tenant takes care of things directly, the other landlord takes care of it and then bills the tenant for whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. And
And
the success that I've had has been the one where I take care of it. Because if I don't have my thumb on it, they hire the cheapest, and the cheapest is not always the cheapest. So I
yeah,
say, okay, I approve this person, go ahead and do the work. Oh, well, it's too much. Okay, then we'll work with that.
yeah. So my real first exposure to triple net leases was when I did the hostile takeover in the Silicon Valley back in the late 90s.
Hostile.
And hostile, yeah, like after a year of forensic accounting, walked in with my team along with two plainclothes police officers carrying handcuffs and handguns. So a little bit of hostility there.
Oh,
A little fun though. But anyhow, so I get into this building and I'm the CFO, COO, and I get this bill from the landlord. They're charging me to fix the air conditioning unit and do some patching on the roof and restriping the parking lot and stuff. I'm like, what is this? Because I wasn't familiar with it because I wasn't a real estate agent then. I was a certified financial planner that moved into the tech industry. And so I got my education in what triple net was. And one of the things that I found fascinating is they said, well, the HVAC unit on this building has a 15-year life expectancy. A new unit will cost $15,000. So we're charging you $1,000 a year towards the HVAC. So it comes out to $83 a month or whatever it was. And I'm like, well, why am I paying for it? Well, because it's triple net. You get to pay for all the things that are going to break in the future, but we don't want you to pay $15,000 all at once. So we break it up in little bites for you.
yeah, because they never have it. Oh, we don't have the money. Well, what do you expect me to do? You're in a lease. Well, sue me, and then we'll just crunch the whole thing down, and now you get nothing. Oh,
Yeah. So that was my start into that. Now let's move and talk a little bit more about the real good triple net stuff. And that would be hang on, I gotta go share my screen here. That would be absolute and ground leases.
right.
So let's talk about that for a little bit. And I put this little table together to kind of help the conversation. A lot of people they're visual learners instead of auditory. And this
Mhm.
way, you can visually see what we're talking about here.
Yep, absolutely. So it gives you the what is it, and then the second one is absolute net, and that means the tenant pays taxes, insurance, maintenance, and then you have a ground lease. Now, ground leases to me were kind of a new thing where you own the land and you lease the land, and the tenant builds the building, and then they lease back from you for 50 to 99 years.
Hmm.
So they can amortize it over a period of time because they paid for the building. So they want to be able to depreciate the building and whatever. The lovely thing about the ground lease is at the end of the lease, I own the building. It's like,
Yeah.
what? But they figured this out. And so
Yep.
it's okay with them.
Yeah. And that's called a reversionary interest, I believe, right?
A
Reversionary, is that the right word? I think that's what it is.
reversionary interest. Okay.
Yeah,
Sometimes we
because the
don't charge.
property reverts back to the
Oh,
owner of the
reversionary.
ground.
Yes, yes, yes. I thought you said diversionary. I was going to say,
No, 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 no,
oh,
reversionary.
reversionary. Yeah, because it reverts back.
Yes.
You're building on my land. At the end of your lease, it reverts to me. It's now mine.
Hmm.
So you got
Yeah,
to have
I
a
had
plan for
a
that.
99-year lease on a residential property, and I bought the leasehold interest basically, and so I now had a structure that I was totally responsible for, but I knew that in another 52 years or whatever it was, that the owner of the land was going to get the house. And doesn't the Irvine company do a lot of that?
Oh yeah, yeah. They do a lot of leasing.
Yeah, for
That's a
those who
piece
aren't
of
in
cake.
Southern California, the Irvine company they've started the city of Irvine, if I recall correctly.
Yes. Yep. Old man Irvine won the all this land as far as a horse could run from the ocean to the hills or the mountains in a card game, and then his son started developing, and it became one of the model cities and how to develop, build, and expand in the world. So it's people go to Irvine to learn how to build these cities.
Yeah. Now, I haven't done a lot of real estate down in Orange County, but I was told at one point that most of the city of Irvine, all the industrial space, especially down near the beach, that it was all ground lease. And
Yes,
it wasn't
Irvine.
until like maybe in the 80s that
Mhm.
people actually were able to start purchasing the ground to build their own houses and stuff when they built the modern subdivisions.
Yeah, the revolution came, and people said, "Wait, wait, wait! At the end of this period of time, you're going to get my house? No way, Jose. We're gonna sue the Irvine company," and they got a class action suit. And they said, "You got to sell us the land." And Irvine said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You don't have to sue anybody. We'll make a deal here." So they made a deal, and a lot of it is still leased. Most of the commercial is still leased,
Hmm.
and they build the suit, and then we'll have a situation where they tear down the buildings and they build new ones after 50 to 99 years.
Yeah.
And
So let's go ahead and talk about this chart just a little bit. So the absolute lease is usually where there's already an existing building on some property, correct?
correct.
And then you might lease that out to a Chipotle restaurant or something like that,
Mhm.
or a Starbucks, and they're like, okay, we've got this thing and we've got it for the next 15 to 50 years. And so they take total care of it. Parking lot, exterior, interior, everything there. And
Right.
so the land in the building belongs to the property owner, doesn't
Exactly.
belong to the lessee. And the maintenance is all done by the tenant. The tenant, though, gets to depreciate. Oh, I'm looking the ground lease or the absolute. Hold it. Yeah, the absolute. The tenant is depreciating the building, though, right?
Not
Or
on an
didn't we?
absolute, on a ground lease. The tenant owns the building.
Oh,
So it
see,
just
I
changed
got
around there. Yeah. So the
when.
tenant gets the write off on the building. I only have the land. You can't depreciate land. So
Yeah,
in an
yeah,
absolute, I own the building. I get the depreciation. I'm the owner. You get the write offs for the maintenance. Those are yours, and you can push them off against your income statement.
yep. When
Just
I put this table together, I grabbed the basic table from another source, and they had these reversed. And so when I changed the columns, I missed the depreciation. Oh
yeah.
my
So just
goodness.
just move it over. The tenant depreciates the building in a ground lease because they own the building.
Exactly. So those of you who are looking at this, when you take your screenshot, make sure and fix the table.
Yep.
Yep. All right. And then the terms, usually when you're doing an absolute, you're doing a minimum of 15, correct?
Well, you'll probably do a minimum of 10. And they're all they don't want to be tied in to a certain they want to renegotiate if the market goes down or bad. So you'll do a 15-year, a 10-year fixed, 50, another 5-year or 3-year uh,
Option.
option so that you can. I don't want to build my Chipotle business here. I don't want to build my Starbucks business here. And then 15 years later, you won't deal with me. So I want to make sure that I have a long enough lease with some extra time in there that okay, this is what I'll pay. Then we're going to pay this, and we're going to pay this, and then we'll tie it to the consumer price index or something that's reasonable. Then they always come back and want to negotiate, especially Starbucks. I used to think Starbucks was the best thing since sliced bread, and then I bought one in Chandler, Arizona. And when the COVID came, I didn't receive my payment, and I called him up, said, "Hey, what's going on? Is it raining there in Seattle? What's it cooking?" And he said, "Well, we're not making any money, so we can't pay you this month." And I said, "You're one of the largest corporations in the world. Send me a check." He said, well, we're not going to do that, Mr. Carlson. I said, well, then you're in violation of the lease and we're going to have to go to court. He said, fine. Here's the 50 attorneys we have on staff. I went, oop, that was a losing situation. So they paid it, but they put it on the back end of the lease so that during that period of time, they're not making money. But you got to be careful. Some of these people that you think are number one, best out there, no problems, they can make you problems. And you have
Well,
to write that lease properly.
especially when you're dealing with these large players and they know they can throw their weight around. They're throwing their weight around because they have the staff attorneys, they have the outside heavy hitter legal counsel.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with Dollar Tree, Dollar General, and stuff, they, I don't know if Starbucks is the same because I haven't done Starbucks, but I'm assuming it's the same as like Dollar Tree, Dollar General. They use their lease. They won't let you develop their own lease. They said, this is our master lease. This is what we use. Either you take it or you don't take it.
It's up to you. Here's our background. Here's our ability to make payments. Here's how successful we've been. You pick. And
Yeah.
usually the investor is going to say, okay, let me get this straight. You are this big. You have this amount of money. You're going to make these amount of payments. And I don't have to worry about anything. Okay. I may not make the cap rate, especially in Southern California. Everybody wants to be here in Southern California. I may not make the cap rates that you can get from residential income,
Hmm.
but I have the security. I have that monthly check coming in.
Yeah. That's good. All right. So let's talk about cap rates for a minute. Now, the reason I left the cap rate and the tenant rep fee blank on these is because it changes all the time,
All the time.
all the time. But in today's market, it also changes based on where you're at in the
That's
country.
that's what I found.
Yeah.
Is that
So you go to the South and you might have a lot higher cap rate than you do in Southern California.
Yeah, I've got Columbus, Ohio, 8%. The Starbucks there. The one in Chandler, Arizona. If I can get 5.25, I'm excited.
Hmm.
Because everybody is, you know, they want to be there, so they drive the price down for the return on your investment. The reverse of that is if it's residential income, residential apartments, things like that, the rents go up, the value goes up. We're fixed. If you buy a net lease piece of property, it's fixed. The value is fixed based on I'm an investor. I'm going to buy this property. I get this amount of return. I could take my $20 million. I could buy art. I could buy gold. I could buy whatever and make this amount of money. Your real estate, I've got to be at least this amount. So a lot of times the players are not going to be in Southern California or southern states just because the rates are not as your return on investment is not as big.
Hmm. Well,
But
and when you look at, oh, go ahead.
but I own real estate in southern part of the United States. A lot of them are like that. They want to brag. Oh, I own that one. I own that one. I don't make any money on them, but I own them.
Yeah. Well, and that's where you get the foreigners a lot of times buying the trophy properties in LA and San Francisco. They're like, yeah, we own the Ritz-Carlton or whatever, but they're not making a lot of money, but they got pride of ownership.
That's it. Yeah. And but the beauty of that I love, and in the United States of America, in order to own real property, you do not have to be a citizen. You don't have to have a green card. You don't have to have a social security number. To own real property in the United States, you don't even have to be 18 years of age or older. And that came from the Jackie Coogan decision. That was the decision. His parents were stealing he's a child star in Hollywood, making a lot of money. His parents were stealing all his money. The judge took his money and put it in real estate. You can own it. You just can't sell it. So I've been in countries, you don't own real estate unless you're a citizen,
Yep.
or you have an AK-47, or you're in the elite. And we don't have those things. So the ownership of real property, a lot of money is coming in from other countries to buy real property. The beauty of it is they can't take it with them. It's
Yeah,
here.
so this is like the second or third story so far, just in this session that we've had. There's like totally new information. You talked about the Irvine companies starting because of a card game,
Yeah.
and now we've got the child star owning real estate that he couldn't sell.
Yeah.
See, this is what happens
Jackie
when
Kruger.
you associate with people who started back when the pen and quill was the favorite writing instruments.
We were still beating rocks together to make fire. Yeah.
All right. So when we look at a ground lease compared to the absolute lease, your cap rates are typically going to be lower because it's the tenant who constructed the property, right?
Right. They've got to get a return on their investment.
Yeah. And so you get paid a little bit less, but you have less risk because you didn't put up the building.
There's no building, no risk. Plus, the only thing you have on the real property is property taxes. That's in your lease that they're paying. So it's like, what do they use? Mailbox money.
Mailbox money, exactly.
Yeah. And one of my cohorts that's listening to this, she and I did seminars many years ago on mailbox money. Getting rid of I get people every day say, I'm tired of tenants. I'm tired of the state of California. They're driving me crazy. I need to get out of this, but I don't want to pay taxes. Okay. Do a 1031 into net lease pieces of property. Well, I
Mhm.
don't want any tenants. No, tenant pays the property tax, the insurance, and the maintenance. You just have to make sure that you have a good lease. And that's one of the things that I got to tell you, I'm really weak on. I'm going to take another class from Brian Mashian, who is the attorney for AIR forms, and find out what all the new and exciting things are that's coming up in June, because leases, that makes or breaks the whole deal. And I hate leases because Irvine Company has a 68-page lease.
Oh,
I
that's a
can buy,
short one.
yeah, I can buy the whole building for 11 pages, but 68-page lease. So that's why I
Yeah.
always have an attorney involved.
Well, we'll talk about forms more in a little bit,
Sure.
but let's talk about the tenant rep fee.
Okay.
So, I know that when I've been doing absolute leases, I typically will get paid from the owner of the property, and they usually have it structured so that it's like the first 5 years is one rate, and then the next few years is a different rate. The longer the lease goes, the lower the rate is for that period of time. But they pay it all to me up front, so I don't have to worry about collecting it over 15 years typically, right?
Right. I've never written one that's more than 5 years. It's a 15-year lease, but they'll only usually pay me on the first five. That doesn't mean anything, but they usually pay you, okay, you got me the lease, you got a 5-year lease, I'll give you what it costs on that. When we have the renewals or when they extend it, we'll give you maybe three, let me see, I can't talk about commissions in an open forum like that. That's price fixing federally. So
Right.
I get three apples from the seller for the first 5 years, and then on whatever that gross amount is, and then I
Yep.
get two apples on the next 2 years, and then one apple on the next 2 years after that, or 3 years after that. So that's typically how I have seen it. If I get everything up front, I'm like, holy cow, I'm going to Tahiti.
I guess I must have just been fortunate on the longer term leases I've written.
Yeah. It's one of those things, because what happens is, okay, I'm gonna lease this building. I give you first, last month's, or deposit of some sort. Whatever that amount of money is, that's typically your compensation. We can't call it commission here in California anymore. It's compensation. So that's your compensation. Well, if you take it for that period of time, there's not enough compensation in the initial transaction from the lessee. So that's the
Yeah.
reason why they want to spread it out. They don't want to pull money out of their pocket to pay you.
So how about on a ground lease? How many ground leases have you done? I've never done a ground lease actually.
I've done one out in Colton. It was a
Inland
builder. He
Empire.
was a developer. He was going to build, and he was going to build golf carts. Now his father had done it in, I'm going to say Redlands, city of Redlands. I remember where that was when I was a kid growing up, and he wanted his own, so he couldn't afford. Well, the guy that had the land. Well, there was several situations. the buyer said, I want to buy this and I want to build a building on it. And the lender said, we need to do a phase one. So they did the phase one, and there were several leaks around the area. So they said, okay, then we need to make sure that we're happy. So you have to do this and this and this. The buyer said, I ain't going to do that. So the owner of the land said, I'll do that. I'll be responsible for that. You just build your building. You're a developer. You know how to build buildings. Build your building there. So that was the first one I got in on that one. And it's still going. That was 20 years ago. And he's expanded it twice, but I only got one commission.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing that I find about compensation is
Yeah.
even though the client has options to extend, the owner is not willing to pay compensation for negotiating those extensions.
No.
And
Unless
so,
you're in the middle of it. I've got one client in Central California. He says, Joel, I will pay you every time because I don't want to monkey with this stuff and I don't trust my attorneys. Oh, okay. So it all depends. It's a case by case, but mainly you're absolutely correct. They paid you the one time, they'll pay you for a little bit more, and then that's the end of that.
right. But that's the difference of what I said is the landlord's not willing to pay. But the tenant, knowing that they get proper representation and they have someone on their side to negotiate on their behalf, against the landlord, that's where your opportunity lies.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Chris, I always forget about that. I've been a rep for listings are the name of the game. So I'm always on the seller side. But somebody's got to protect the buyer. And that's come up in a little court case that we had in Missouri in 2024. NAR got a little bill and settled for 1.8 billion. I always wondered who's the National Association of Realtors? Look in the mirror. If you're a realtor, you're on the hook for 1.8 bills. So in that particular case, you want to make sure that you have somebody who's knowledgeable in the area in which you're dealing. That's why I always say, first thing, who's your attorney? Oh, why is my divorce attorney? Real estate attorney, commercial, and tax person. Oh, they do my taxes through, I don't know, something. No, you need somebody who's a tax professional because they're the ones that are going to be advising you about this and have to be aware of the kind of things that Chris is talking about.
You probably don't want a franchise tax preparer. That's leasing one of these spaces for 6 months, right? Or less. All right. So the other thing that we haven't talked about is build to suit. And build to suit is really an absolute net. It's just that when the client is coming in, they're saying, hey, landlord, build this property for me. And they're not doing a ground lease. They're leasing the building after the landlord builds it, correct?
Right. So I'll build a lease. Hi, I'm whoever. Here's my financials. If you build it, I will occupy it and pay you a lease for this period of time. I've already got you already have the land. This is what I want on your land.
Yeah.
My success record on that is probably 50-50 because most of the owners of the land don't want to be involved in that. They just get rid of it. So
Yeah, but you
sometimes
do see build to suit on a lot of signs on property. And I'm kind of wondering if it's the same as owner financing negotiable. It's like it's out
yes.
there as a possibility, but the seller doesn't necessarily want to do it, but it brings more eyes and it brings more inquiries, I think.
Right. Yeah. It's all about the money.
Yeah. And
In case nobody
how do
told
you
you, it's all
attract
about the
the
money.
money?
Yeah. So if in fact I can build the suit and I can make more money than just selling you the land, I'm going to build the suit. And I want a return on my investment anyway. So depreciation, appreciation, that can put that return into the double digits is what most investors are looking for at the end of the day with their tax person.
Yeah. Now, and then the last thing on this table here, and then I'm going to show a couple other slides real quick, Joel, if you don't mind,
Sure.
is the tenant rep fee for ground leases. In my experience, it tends to be less than the absolute.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When you represent a tenant, I represent the owners, you represent the tenants, you're fighting. You got to go in there and you got to say, look, this is a great tenant, this is this. And the seller says, well, I'm paying Joel and he's protecting my interests. You want me to pay your guy? Oh, okay, fine. I'll give you a few shekels. So if you're tenant rep, you got to really hammer. And sometimes, the first time in my career I ever saw where the tenant said, I'll pay you. I was like, what? Can you do that? Is that legal? Yeah, it's legal. Okay. You can get your under 10131 of the Business and Professions Code. You can be paid any way you want as long as it's legal, ethical, and moral. So that's the tenant rep fee you got to do. But once you get to be a successful tenant rep, you get a name out there. And they come back to you and they say, look, I need your help to extend this lease. I need your help to go into a bigger building, or we're going to expand in some manner. So that's where I see tenant rep is a
Yeah.
fabulous area.
I did a industrial project last year in the Long Beach area by the port.
Mm,
And the client who leased the space, they came back to me this year and said, okay, now I need a space in Orlando. So I'm working on a space in Orlando for them currently, which that after we're done with these other slides I want to show, let's talk about how commercial agents frequently work across state lines, and residential agents, they find that kind of like black magic.
yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that.
So the Realtors Commercial Alliance of California, we are California's only commercial focused association of realtors. And our mission is to empower our members to thrive in commercial real estate through education, networking, and fostering collaboration among commercial residential real estate professionals and business brokers. And we've actually been around since I think it was 1996 when we were incorporated. And some of our benefits, we do monthly education and training, such as you are experiencing and enjoying right now. We have a monthly commercial real estate project pitch. We don't do residential pitches, people. And professional networking Zoom, where you can share your commercial real estate haves and wants and connect with your peers. And we're also going to do a couple of social events later this year. There's some events, there's a big event called Reimagine that's going to be in Long Beach. And so we are going to do a social gathering at Reimagine. So if you're a realtor, you're probably going to be at Reimagine, and we'll get together and do some networking at Reimagine. And for our members, we also have a hotline for our members to call into if they have questions about commercial real estate. So we can't do deal specific things, but we can give general wisdom and knowledge nuggets. So there's our property pitch. The next one's coming up in 2 weeks from today at 4 o'clock Pacific. If you want to be on to get invited to these things, our education and our networking project pitches, just visit RCAoC.org, and there's a sign up form right there. Just sign up, and we'll have a lot of fun. Now, I'm kind of excited about this, Joel. I know you're into technology, and artificial intelligence is causing a huge uptick in cybercrime.
Yep.
And I recently came across Eric O'Neill, who there's actually a movie that is based on his experience as a spy hunter for the FBI. And so he recently wrote a book, Spies, Lies, and Cybercrime. And in talking to him earlier this week, I think it was Monday, I learned that cybercrime actually constitutes, if it were a country, if cybercrime were a country, it would be the third largest economy in the globe. That's how bad cybercrime is. So we're going to be talking about how cybercrime affects commercial real estate and what you can do to protect yourself and your clients, your brokerage. So this is going to be really big. That's coming up. And on our schedule here, That's coming up July 8th, 11:30 to 12:30 Pacific time. We're going to be live streaming it right here on YouTube, just like we're doing today. But let's back up. We've got property pitches once a month. Next month, June 3rd, we're going to be unlocking service station sales secrets with Steve Haddadin, who actually owns I think it's an AM/PM, and his family with his dad and his brother. I think they own 8 or 9 AM/PMs in Southern California. And he's also a commercial real estate broker and a CCIM and an attorney. And we're also going to bring in Kelly Cheney, who is an SBA financing specialist, talking about does the SBA finance service stations. And so that'll be a lot of fun. Then we've got a property pitch, and then July 8th, we'll be back to our cybersecurity with Spy Hunter Eric O'Neill. That's going to be great. And of course, we want to acknowledge our sponsor, deferredtax.com. So be sure and visit them so you can learn about all of your options for deferring and avoiding, but not evading, because evading gets you 5 to 10 in a federal penitentiary. So we don't want to do that. All right, we're back. So what was it we were going to talk about right when we came back? I got so excited talking about our association. I don't remember what we were talking about before.
That's all right. We were going over the types of properties that are available out there that you can do net lease properties on.
Yep.
So,
all right. So let's talk about the types of properties. I mean, we've talked about Starbucks. You know, I see a lot of different things out there. What are the favorites that you've actually done some projects on net lease?
Starbucks is my favorite. And the reason is because 100 years from now, they're going to find out that in the Starbucks blend, they had heroin. I'm sure of it. Okay.
No,
so
don't say that.
Right
don't
now,
say that.
Everybody's hooked on Starbucks. So that's
don't say that. I don't want you to get sued. You know, remember, the whole basis of commercial real estate is risk avoidance and don't get sued, right?
That's right. That's right.
All right. But
so
my kid used to always say that the whipped cream on Starbucks has got to have crack in it or something because he was addicted.
It's just so addicting. So that's retail. Industrial. My favorite is industrial from an aspect of property management. Because once you write the lease, they don't even want to see you again. They just pay like clockwork. They don't want you out there looking around saying, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Now, from a net leased situation, the success I've had are little shop owners. This is a one-off. This is a guy who has this business. His father started it. He wants to expand it. And so he needs, but he doesn't have the ability to own or buy, so he wants to lease. Medical offices, another one of those that I've had great success in going from an office. It was built as an office, bringing in doctors, and they have to put in stuff like, different gases that they use to knock you out or do certain things with, and egress and ingress of the patients. They have to have real tough security on their cyber stuff. And that's why I'm going to be very interested in the gentleman from the FBI, because as a CAR instructor, one of the things that I get all the time is all the court cases that we're losing as realtors, and then I'm supposed to tell you about them.
Right.
And the cybercrime is up so much. I am scared to death to even go and try any of these things because I'm afraid they'll invade. I have a two-step process on my computer. You have to put in a code, then you have to put in a fingerprint. I'm afraid somebody's going to steal my computer and cut off my finger so that they can get the information.
You've been watching too many movies.
I know, it's one of those things. So medical offices, with the aging of America, those are going to be premier.
Well, I especially like dental.
Yeah.
Because dental has got so much infrastructure improvement that they like really long leases. And when I sign my buyer broker agreements, they're ironclad. I get paid up front for those.
The experience that I've had with dental is they find out what all those expenses are and they said, I'll just buy it. And so
Mhm.
I've sold several commercial condos, if you will,
Yeah.
to dental so that they can jackhammer up the floors, put in their piping, make sure that this is done, that's done, put it to the way that they want it. And nobody says anything because they own that part of it.
Yeah.
Offices. Now, as far as net lease on offices, I haven't had success in that. I've done one of those in Tustin. It was a small little place, and what they wanted to do was it was a guy leased the whole thing and then he sublet out. And that didn't go real well for him, but he's still in there. And now it started to come back again.
Mhm.
We work and those kinds of things.
Well, and I think office is going to be challenging in the future. I think that 3 to 5 years from now, it's going to be much more challenging than today because AI is taking over so many white collar jobs. I mean, just today, um, Coinbase, I think it was, said that they're laying
Coinbase.
off 15%. And, Coinbase is this big tech company for, selling Bitcoin and stuff like that, trading Bitcoin.
Yep.
And so that's a super high tech company. One of the issues today is that a lot of the programmers, remember back when I don't want to say the name of the politicians, but they said, oh, the coal miners are going to be fine. They can just learn to code. And now the coders need to learn to be coal miners because the robots aren't going to take over the coal mines right away. And there's a huge, huge deficit of people that need to become electricians and plumbers and tradespeople because the white collar jobs are going away. And I think that we're going to really see a huge resurgence of entrepreneurship as people are going to have to create their own jobs using their AI tools and their skills for using AI because they're not going to be able to get jobs doing that as easily. So, but I think office is going to be challenging because of this.
Two things. Number one, I went to CES in January at Las Vegas. 40, I don't know what the percentage was of the people saying this from the stage. I went to 3 keynotes, but they were all 40% of the jobs that we have right now will be gone in 5 years
Mm-hmm.
because of AI. Now,
Mm-hmm.
good, bad, or indifferent, I hear about AI, artificial intelligence. I'm transported back to 1986 when the Terminator came out. I'm like, ugh. However, I am also transported back to 1979, 1997, when Bill Gates, one of the richest people in the world, wrote a book called The Road Ahead, and he predicted everything that we're using right now. He predicted it. In the quote that I have kept on my wall, it says, Bill Gates, you either grasp technology with both hands or prepare to be a victim of the hands of those who do. So we
Yep.
got to learn this stuff. And we formed a committee, an AI committee at the Real Estate Investment Association of California to investigate what's out there that can help us and what's out there to keep an eye on that could hurt us.
Yeah, no, that's important.
But it's coming.
Um, so anyhow, I think office is going to be challenging in the future. That's my own personal opinion.
Mhm.
You
And
know, I
that's
mean, ever since COVID, they've been having a lot of problems getting people to return to the office, and there's been millions of square feet that is still vacant.
one of the we had a group of us that used to go, we would meet for breakfast on Monday mornings, and we would say, what can we do with these vacant offices to make money?
Hmm.
Now, somebody came up with the idea, and it wasn't us, that we convert them to apartments.
Hmm.
Okay, so the problem is you don't have the water infrastructure,
The electrical,
uh,
it isn't designed for single family living. It's designed to power an entire floor and then have the utility bill for the floor. Sewer, you've got a core where your structure your utilities are, and the office and the telephone room and the server room and all. It's all at a core, and then it branches out to the offices from there. So yeah,
yeah. So
doing residential conversions of of office is difficult.
And so what we've seen along the corridor of the Jamboree, if you go from Jamboree from where the 73 freeway is to the 405 freeway, we have lost, I don't know how much commercial industrial zoned properties to apartments and condos. They tear them down and they build them up.
Mm-hmm.
So I see that as a trend that's coming. People are going to be working out of their homes. I was just talking with a 30-something in Silicon Valley, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'd be willing to rent that, but it has to have so many gig of whatever that they need to have for their computers to work on their computers." I
Right.
said, "I don't know if it has that." So that's another new thing. We're gonna have to make sure that not only hardwire but Wi-Fi.
Well, and it's the fiber access.
Yeah,
But
fiber. Yeah.
the big issue now with data intense operations as the electrical load isn't large enough. When you look at data centers that are coming in and you look at that, what is it? We're right now, I think data is using 10% of our national electric output. And it's
Or
going to move to 30% over the next several years. That's huge. It's a huge opportunity for us, but our infrastructure isn't set up for it. So we're going to see a lot of interesting change in that. And Joel, I love talking to you because it's always an interesting conversation. And we are at the point where we got like 4 minutes left before our hour is up. Can you believe it?
okay.
And so, do you mind if we go a little bit over time? I don't think we're going to get to everything we wanted to talk to today, but there's a couple more things I'd like to get to. Is that okay with you?
Okay, tell me what those things are to make sure that I also am involved in getting some of those things done.
So, I want to specifically talk about people who have not been doing net lease. Maybe
Okay,
it's someone who wants to become a realtor, or they're a residential realtor, or maybe they've been doing
okay,
something
good.
else, but property management or whatever. And what do they need to do to get started? I really want to make sure we cover that. And then I think we should maybe come back in a few months and do a part two to this.
I agree. I agree because guess what's changing in June? All of the
Forms.
forms.
Yes.
June 27th, they're going to change, not all of them, but I've already had 3 updates. You don't see these updates, but as a forms certified forms trainer, I do from NAR, CAR, I
Mhm.
mean. So one of the things that I want to make sure that if I have the ability to share,
I did give you the ability to share, so
okay,
please.
I want to show you this is AIR. Now we are the California Association of Realtors. These are forms. This stood for once upon a time American Industrial Realtors, but now they just call them AIR CRE. They're not realtors anymore, but we use their forms. And part of your education is going to be understanding these forms because
Hmm.
we don't have any net lease forms in CAR. We got
Right.
leases, but we don't have any purchase agreements, that address these kinds of things.
Hmm.
So, when we come back at a different time, I think we should take a look at that to make
We
sure that,
definitely want to do forums. And last week, I was at the CAR board of directors meetings, and I spoke
oh,
with the chief counsel of CAR, and I said, hey, I'd like to do a specific live stream on forms, comparing the CAR forms and the AIR forms. And he said that he will help us make that happen, so that we're going to do a comparison. CAR did a webinar on this back in 2019, which was absolutely, I think it's essential for anyone that's moving from residential real estate to commercial real estate to understand the mindset and the differences between how the forms are written and what the philosophy of the forms are. So,
I
oh,
teach
hey,
a
look,
class on that. I
you've got
teach
a
a class
class
on
coming up.
AIR versus CAR, commercial
Yep.
forms, because they're totally different and they have totally different mindsets. And if you come walking and say, "Hi, I'm using my CAR form on a $20 million building," the agent is going to say, the representing seller is going to say, "You a rookie? Let me take this over. I'll give you a little referral fee here because you don't know what you're doing." So,
Exactly. Yeah. So let's talk about that. So the thing that I keep coming back to whenever I'm talking to a realtor who wants to do something, they don't know what they're doing, is the NAR Code of Ethics, uh, Article 11,
Yep.
which is really important. Now, you teach ethics, so why don't you explain what this means in simple terms so that we can help people avoid, what do we call it? Risk management and getting sued, right?
Yeah. How many of you want to go to court and lose? Oh,
Yeah.
nobody. How many want to go to court and win? How
Hmm.
many of you don't want to go to court? That's what I'm talking about here. So if you
Avoiding.
understand the laws, number one, understand the code of ethics, number two, you're going to stay out of there because most of our code of ethics are already laws here in the state of California. And they're broken up into three areas. 1 through 9 have to do with duties to your clients and customers. Well, wait a minute. What happened to 11? 11 is duties to the public. And number 11 says you need to be knowledgeable in the area in which you're dealing. So I'm doing residential. Now I want to do commercial. Then you need to get the knowledge on that. You need to take the classes. You need to go with a broker that allows it. There's a lot of brokers out there. We're 1 to 4 residential, no commercial, no property management.
Right.
So Article 11 talks about if you're going to do these kinds of things, you need to have specific knowledge in those. The law in the state of California says the same thing. You need to be knowledgeable in the area in which you deal. And that's why I appreciate when Chris says, I want to help educate people. And that's why I'm the president of the the Realtors Commercial Alliance,
I'm actually the president-elect.
president-elect of the
Yeah.
Commercial Realtors Alliance. Good.
Yeah.
So,
So next year I get to be El Presidente.
all right.
Yeah.
I like it. In
So, go ahead.
Articles 10 through 14 have to do with duties to the public. So Article 11 says you need to be knowledgeable. Article 12 says you need to present a true picture in your advertising. Article 14 says if you violate any of these code of ethics, you're going to be sanctioned through the grievance committee, pro standards committee, or arbitration committee. And then the last three committees, 15, 16, and 17, have to do with duties to other realtors. You won't lie to them, lie, cheat, and steal. You won't say bad things about them, and you won't interfere with an exclusive right to sell listing or an exclusive buyer representation agreement. That's Article 16. So we're talking about Article 11 here that says you need to be knowledgeable, and that's why you need to attend certain ones of these. And I'm telling you, I take classes all the time.
Hmm.
I took a class this morning. I'm going to take a class this afternoon because they change stuff so fast just to keep up with what's going on.
Yeah. Well, and part of the reason I like Article 11 is because my business is built on supporting residential agents that want to do commercial real estate, and I mentor them and I assist them in what they're doing so that they can learn about commercial real estate. Because that's one of the big issues with residential real estate and commercial. There's this schism between the two, and it's very difficult to find someone who's willing to mentor because it's a little kingdom and commercial people like their kingdom.
That's right. I remember that when I read a book by Robert Ringer in the 1970s. He was a commercial guy and he did business all over the United States, but he wasn't successful at it until he developed a philosophy. And he went to a university called Screw You, and he writes about that and all his professors and how he was taught to protect himself, his clients, and his money. And several things. The attorney to attorney rule. If somebody brings in an attorney, you got to have your attorney. The ain't no deal you can't walk away from. It's not so. There's no deal that's so good you can't walk away, because if you can't walk away, they got you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one I remember was the ice ball theory. We're all worried about, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. In 50 billion years, the sun will burn out and the earth will become an ice ball. So what difference does it make? That's
There
the
you
ice
go.
ball theory. So anyway, the fact that you're trying to get them educated on this is very important. I don't do mentoring anymore. I used to. It just frustrated me too much. So the fact that you'll take that on, God bless you.
Thanks. Well, I figure I got a good 5 years left in me before I don't want to do that anymore. So we're having some fun in the meantime. So there's a lot of things that we didn't get to talk about today that we
Okay.
should was need to save for next time. That is, how do you prepare yourself so that you can be a good triple net realtor?
Mhm.
What are the things that you need to know about financing? What is a capital stack?
Mm,
Okay. Yeah, so many people don't
yeah,
understand the capital stack. They don't understand deal structuring. They don't know how financing works. They don't understand. We talked a little bit about it before, the whole tax issues and 1031 exchanges. There's a ton of stuff that we still have to talk about here.
yeah.
And probably the most important thing is, how do you find people to work with? And how do you find properties to work with? Because that's really the heart of real estate, whether you're commercial or residential, is how do you develop the relationships that you need to be successful, and how do you find the properties when they're not on the market?
Yep.
So
Yeah. And AI is going to play a big role in that.
big role. All right, Joel, do you have any last words? Maybe a golden nugget, or a diamond, because you've been mining diamonds in commercial real estate for 50 years. So
Yeah.
do you have like one final diamond you want to share?
It,
A bit of
it's
advice?
it's a quote from one of our presidents back in the 1800s, and it's called persistence. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. The world is full of unsuccessful people with talent. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent.
Love it. Love it. With that, everyone who's joining us live or on the instant replay, Memorex, we appreciate you, and we want to make sure that you are successful. So please do reach out to us at the Realtors Commercial Alliance, RCAoC.org. Join the mailing list. Even if you're not yet a realtor and you want to learn about what's going on, join the mailing list. If you're a residential person, you want to keep your finger on the pulse of commercial, join the mailing list, and you will be in the know, because we're going to keep you up to date on things that are happening. So thank you very much, Joel. And thank you everyone for joining us. Have a fabulous day.
See y'all. Aloha.
I love how you do that. It's time to take another Hawaiian vacation, isn't it?
That's every year, whether I need to or not, I go.
Awesome. Okay, so we stopped this